the relationship between social media and reputation. How could you proactively prepare with social media?
You know, one of the great powers of social media is the ability, if used correctly, to see around the corner what's coming next. It's not just a reactive tool to use once the crisis has occurred and your company is in the thick of their bet the company situation. We counsel our clients that it's a powerful tool to hear what's being said about your brand now, to identify potential critics of the brand who are already criticizing you now that maybe haven't organized an efficient recall effort or litigation against your brand. It really is one of the most powerful early warning systems we've ever had in the public relations business. Many brand critics are channeling right now their feelings about your brand. Many activists are telling you right now online what they're going to do to organize against your brand. All you have to do is be listening for that. One of the key steps we counsel our clients, before you ever set up your Facebook profile or engage in Twitter or launch a blog or outreach, is you need to launch an active, very targeted listening campaign for your brand. All the tools are out there. Many of them are free. For goodness sakes, just a very simple thing is a Google News alert. A lot of people know about those. Not a lot of people, surprisingly, know that you can also sign up for a Google blog alert, which lets you know whenever someone blogs about your company or your brand. That is basic 101 public relations crisis media monitoring efforts that you can engage. And you can go far more sophisticated tools now that let you track in real time conversations on Twitter about your brand. You know, Marriott Hotels does a fantastic program for this, where they actively monitor conversations from guests on Twitter. And their goal is to try to catch problems while the customer is still in the Marriott property. Talk about a change where a couple of years ago a consumer would have had a negative experience, gone home and told all their friends, maybe posted a review to a travel website and said never travel at this hotel again. Now Marriott is catching that in real time and correcting that experience. Six Flags, a client of ours, has a similar program where all of their parks are monitoring to make sure that people are having a good time while in the park. If they're sending tweets out to their friends about a ride being down or a negative experience, their customer service reps are trying to engage and correct that guest relations experience before they ever leave the park. That is just a seismic shift in the way that we are able to manage and avoid a crisis occurring by having active monitoring programs.
So in what ways could social media be used when the worst happens?
You know, I think once that crisis does occur, part of what we hope a company or a brand has done is they've built in the reflexes and the training to know how to engage the online space. As we talked about earlier, in Domino's case, the first time they were ever engaging Twitter was in the middle of their crisis. You don't want to be reaching out to your supporters and your fans for the first time in the online space when you're in the thick of it. You want to have done the due diligence to build the online brand ambassadors and the outreach before your crisis. But once that crisis occurs, there's a couple key things that I think are universal best practices. And one is be transparent and accountable. Boy, it is often the initial reflex to not want to be transparent, to maybe try to do some shadow blogging or have pay for people to clean up your reputation online. And in this day and age, that is just seen right through. With 118 million blogs online, all of them are looking to catch the next instance of a Walmart doing something inappropriately with blogging or another company that may have stumbled in the online space. So be transparent, but boy, you've got to reach out. There is no more powerful force today to help you in the time of crisis than the online networks and social networking sites. You know, I am a firm believer. I think Facebook is PR nirvana. I think it's untapped, and a lot of that, frankly, is Facebook's fault for not effectively, communicating and the way Google really has and how they can be used effectively. But for anybody that's ever tried to use Facebook, their micro-targeting capabilities, their abilities to really zero in and push action in support of a cause or a brand is a fantastic resource in times of crisis. And if you've done your homework and your due diligence in advance and you've built these communities of support online on Facebook or on Twitter, or you've reached out to the key bloggers that cover your industry, and when that crisis occurs, you reach back out to them. And you don't do it with the corporate PR press release. You do it with access. We've got a client, as I think I might have mentioned, Six Flags. Their CEO is one of the most forward-looking people when it comes to the online space. And they were trying to go into financial restructuring, and they knew they needed to reach out to the blogosphere to share this story. Instead of sending a press release, the CEO sat down and did a blogger conference call with 25 bloggers that covered the theme park industry. Coaster enthusiasts, mommy bloggers who actually do the vacation planning for the summer, and talked to them for over an hour on the phone directly with the CEO of a billion-dollar company, walking them through what these changes meant for the park, how it was going to be still a successful and a great year. And he just actually did the second call this week, reaching back out to those folks as he promised to keep the dialogue open. That's going to lead to really good rewards for this company down the line. Southwest Airlines is another fantastic example. They are the poster child for how you do this in a crisis. They've built the online goodwill by being open and accountable to their community. And when their crisis occurs, they've had some issues in the past with delays and other plane issues had to be grounded. Their online brand ambassadors came to their rescue saying, that's not the experience we're used to having with Southwest. We've had much better experiences. So when that crisis does come, using those tools, organizing your online brand ambassadors, the playbook here was written by Barack Obama. If anybody is familiar with how effectively he used the online social networking to energize not only his supporters to support him, but when a crisis occurred, when newspaper stories came out aligning him with very critical things from his past, they didn't engage directly. They had their army of supporters via mybarackobama.com and other sites push back and reach out to those newspapers with corrective messaging. So all these are tactics that are out there, and it really comes down to having a company that's willing to take it into their DNA to be aggressive, forward-leaning, and open to the online community. And when that crisis occurs, not putting their head in their sand and hoping it's going to go away. We often counsel our clients that when the Huffington Post is writing about you and your response is, well, it's just a blog, our response to you is they have more readers than the New York Times. And if it was the New York Times calling, you would take it just as seriously. So in this day and age, those lines are not even blurred anymore. They're gone. And whether it's the Huffington Post or the New York Times or Bob Woodward calling, the company really and brands need to really be willing to embrace that strategy of reaching out.